The fastest way to build resilience in kids. A lot of parents ask me about building resilience in kids. We have, I think, all very similar questions like, how do I get my kid to not give up on the first try? How do I get my kids to know that everything's gonna be okay in the end and that, they have to try? How do I get my kids to understand that, yeah, sometimes we get knocked down, but it's okay, we can get back up again and again and again? I think a lot of us are really looking for answers of how to build resilience in our kids because we see our kids really stressed out, right? We see them struggling with the pressures of school and friends and sports and just life in general. Like right now I'm watching my daughter go from kind of the elementary and starting to step up towards the middle school, right? So we're dealing with hormones and all the fun like independence and body changes that come along with it. And with that comes a lot of concerns. As she grows more independent, it's harder on my end, and there's still a lot of how do I teach my daughter that, yeah, some things are hard, and yeah, school is stressful, and right, sometimes our friends fight, but it's all gonna be okay in the end. The fastest way to build resilience in kids is to show them through ourselves. So based on how we behave and how we react to things, they will learn, oh, this is how I am resilient. This is how I get back up. This is how I keep going when things are hard. Look, when you first become a parent, and I mean, obviously for the rest of your parenting journey, something in you shifts, right? Like all of a sudden it is so easy to sacrifice our needs for our kids. So we wake up at 3 a.m., for a year and just over and over, and we spend all of our Saturdays at kids' soccer games, and we give up so much of our time and our mental space and our financial resources for our kids. We so quickly give up our needs. We so quickly sacrifice our time for our kids. And look, here's the thing. If your goal is to raise a happy, healthy, independent, resilient child, then you need to model what it's like to be a happy, healthy, resilient, independent adult. And that means taking care of you. That means understanding your needs and taking care of yourself. It is just important to take care of ourselves as it is to take care of our kids. And look, I know you're like, wait, but take care of myself. I'm so busy. I barely have any time. Well, what I'd like to lovingly remind you of is that our kids are watching everything we do. So, to teach our kids about resilience and coping and how do we deal with stress, the first thing we need to do is have open conversations about what we're feeling and why we're doing what we do. We need to make it normal and safe to talk about, hey, this was a really stressful day and some of the things I did today were hard, and no, I didn't get everything done perfectly, and yes, it's okay to have a stressful day and ask for support and let some things go and not be so hard on ourselves. It can be as simple as saying, hey everyone, I love you so much, I'm so glad to see you. So, Mommy has had a super stressful day. I didn't get nearly as much as I wanted done, and I'm still kind of in my head about it. Instead of me cooking dinner tonight, I'm gonna order pizza. And while we're waiting for the pizza, I'm gonna do something to help me de-stress. I'm gonna go for a walk, I'm gonna go color, I'm gonna paint, whatever it is you use to de-stress. And then you can say, anyone wanna do it with me? And what that does is that opens up the conversation. It tells your kids, hey, adults still deal with stress. The same stress that they're feeling and the pressures they're feeling with friends and school, adults deal with it too. And here's how an adult will handle that stress and pressure. They'll let go of something like dinner, or they'll do something else like go for a walk or do some meditation or paint and work through those big feelings that they have. And so it's really, really important to normalize what we're going through and talk about the things that are really hard for us. So I have a really good example from the other day. The other day I needed to go to the post office, and I was there and I had both my kids with me, and they were just, man, something was in the air. They were acting wild, right? And so I'm there trying to be at the post office. My kids are being wild behind me, and I've asked both of them nicely to sit down, but I don't know, there was something on the other side, and my youngest is running around as a normal 5-year-old who hasn't gotten his energy out was, and smack, ran right into a counter with a big old goose egg on his head. Now, should they have been running? No, they shouldn't, but they were. And I was shaming myself a lot for that, of why couldn't I get them to just sit still? Like, why were they just, and I was like, they're being normal. He was a normal 5-year-old boy. That's okay for him to act like a child because he is a child. But also I was shaming myself because there was a lot of people there and a lot of people looking at me, and I'm going, oh my gosh, why is I'm feeling the shame of my child acting the way he was? And so I'm in the middle of trying to figure out this situation, this kind of complicated situation at the post office. My son, is now wailing and screaming because this is how he processes his emotions, by screaming. And so I'm going, I need to remove my child from the situation, but I'm right in the middle of another situation. And so holding him, trying to help approve, getting really overwhelmed and frustrated myself. Finally, luckily, the post office lady got through what I needed to quickly, signed, and we walked out the door when I started to address his emotions. But instead of the normal work that we do where I help him calm down, we process through, I was angry, upset, and flustered, and I yelled at him. I was like, how could you do this to me? You know not to run. This is what you get. Why are you acting crazy? And all of the things, obviously very upset and very flustered, right? And so we get in the car, we had gotten in the car, and I'm just there just yelling, and I caught myself because this is what the work I've done. I've worked really hard on this. I caught myself and I said, stopped mid-sentence. And I said, and here's what I could have done, right? Because immediately, again, I started shaming myself. How could I let myself get to this point? I know better. I'm a parenting coach. How could I sit here and teach all these tools and forget them myself? And I went, nope, stop. Took a breath, and I turned to my kids and said, whoa, mommy was feeling so angry. I was feeling so frustrated. And instead of using the tools I know how to do, like calming and breathing and talking about what I feel, I yelled. That did not feel good for me. How did it feel for you? And I listened. They're pretty upset. Yelling is not how we communicate. So for me to yell is a big deal for them. And we talked through it, right? And I said, I'm glad I stopped and took deep breaths. Taking deep breaths really helps me calm down. Sometimes I go for a walk, but today I needed some good deep breaths. And instead of ignoring the argument, instead of ignoring the yelling, instead of ignoring what I was feeling, it was a conversation of, it's okay for mommy to feel angry, right? It's okay for mommy to feel angry, and it's okay for us to talk about this. It's okay for us to talk about these parts of us that don't feel good. It did not feel good to yell. It didn't, right? And it's hard to feel like I'm being judged by others and shamed by others. And it's hard to know that I'm shaming myself, right? But what's most important is that we stopped and we talked about it. And if there's anything else I do, or if there's nothing else I do with my kids, that will teach them so much more about resilience and how do we cope with stress and what do we do when we're feeling overwhelmed. You know what I mean? And so here's what I want you to walk away with in this video. It is really easy for us to reach these limits, right? Especially when we're not caring for ourselves, when we're not giving ourselves what we need, when we're not asking ourselves, what do I need to stay in balance? How can I take something off my plate today? Do I need to take a walk? Have I done something fun today? When we're not caring for ourselves, it's so easy to reach these limits. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed. It's so easy for us to then turn around and take it out on our kids and take it out on ourselves and take it out on our partner. What's most important is what we choose to do next. And so if you really want to raise kids who are resilient, who understand how to cope with stress, who understand that emotions and like anger and sad and overwhelmed and happy and frustrated and all of these emotions are so normal. Well, the best thing you can do is model that for your kids, is take care of yourself and show them, hey, this is what a happy, healthy, resilient adult is like. And then when it's their turn, they will also be happy, healthy, resilient adults. Because that's the goal, right? Happy, healthy adults who know how to deal with problems, who know how to communicate what they feel. Yeah? I know. It's good. But in the middle of it can feel a little hard. You can feel a little like, ooh, oh wait, I have to face this. I have to look at some of my own imperfections, and that's okay. You know, it's all okay. It's all a part of the journey. It's all a part